The views expressed here are those of the authors and do not in any way represent the views of Sophia TV.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another edition of Ladies First. I'm joined here by Sarah Russell and Nishat. Assalamu alaikum, ladies. So during the Battle of Karbala, none of the ladies were allowed or instructed to fight. However, we do have our beloved Zainab, may Allah be pleased with her, who fought and defended our faith and defended truth by her wisdom and her use of her words. My question to you, ladies, is in 2016, we're in a completely different environment in the West. Should we encourage sisters to defend themselves, learn how to fight? I'm going to bring in sports as well, combative sports, self-defense. And do you think if we did do that, do you think men would feel demasculated? Is that even a word? I made it up, but would they feel less of masculine? There you go.
Talk about Bibi Zainab again, going back that far. Bibi Zainab, although she fought a different war or different battle, she did carry Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam out of the tent, the burning tent, and you need to be, physically be able to do that. And I always did tell myself, think about it like this. If you're serving an imam, say imam comes, inshallah, ajallah, and you're the last woman there, serving the imam, and you've got to, fight. Why not? Why? You should be able to do it.
You thought, Sada? You look like you're going to pass out.
Sorry. I don't see the problem with it. I think our religion teaches us to be, healthy and look after ourselves and our bodies and our minds. So being strong and being healthy, why not?
So you don't think it would cause any problems in a marriage? You're going to do
probably depends on the person. It depends on the man. If he's I don't know how to
comfortable in himself.
Yeah, if he's comfortable in himself, then I can't think of a situation where it would be a problem.
But also fathers these days, they send their children, girls, to taekwondo and
for what purpose?
Confidence is very important, actually.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to make any men feel less masculine.
Yeah.
Just
actually, quite a while ago now, one of my employers that I was working with at the time sent us, all the women that were working in the office, for self-defense classes, because all of us had a long way, and this was after 9/11, so it was, we had to go home in the dark in the winter and everything. So it was totally funded by the work, and they sent us on, and we were a lot more, and it was self-defense classes for muhajjaba ladies. So obviously if you're wearing abaya and stuff, you can't do things that you would, So it was really, really good. I learned so much, and it even gives you confidence to be able to know that, what, God forbid, if I am in a situation where I need to defend myself, I will be able to, or I will be able to, stay safe for long enough until help comes.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
I think it's just as vital for, maybe more so important, that actually women do learn self-defense. I'm saying this, I haven't actually myself, but now talking about it, I'm thinking it is a very, it's actually important to do, especially in this day and age, and any age actually. I think women are vulnerable when they're out in the dark, or whatever. Maybe perhaps we'd question what they're doing out late, but sometimes we work.
Sometimes we do work.
In the winter, it gets dark really early.
But some of us work,
Why are you up late?
Why are you up late? You should be at home. But but my point is, actually, the point that I was initially wanting to make is that it's important to, like Sarah said, I agree, you should take care of your health, and sports. I think it's important that we don't always think that. I think it's just something of the past. We think that a man is the one that's going to protect you, because he's not always there 24/7.
Exactly, and sometimes you're stronger than the man.
It reminds me of this incident. I was on holiday with my cousins, and there was dogs running after us, and I was like, "Oh, Yusuf, this is my cousin's cousin. Yusuf, just look, there's dogs," and he was like, "Bye, I'm running," So you've got to be able to defend yourself,
I think, I don't know, I was brought up in a household where you can do anything you want to do. So I was taught how to change a tyre, because you might need to change a tyre one day. This kind of annoys me when we bring up little princesses, like, okay, you need to be saved. You need to be able to function at every other level. But how do we feel about the fact that there are now females on the front line in the military? Like, you know, sometimes you see, and the media does this a lot, you know, there's a female soldier, but she had 2 children at home. And my thing is, that was her job. She chose to go there. It doesn't make me feel any
Less
more, you know, compassion to her than, you know, a male soldier that had a wife and 5 kids at home. I'm like, that's your job. But should we feel like that? Should it,
I think
do we need
coming back to the nature of or how, you know, things are intended to be, women are more nurturing, so that's why they're, you know, thought about as people who raise children and who should be able to be there for their children more than men.
But they could be more aggressive because they don't want to deal with nappies and dishes, so they're a bit frustrated and might want to do a karate chop now and again, you know, to do something.
But having said that, there's more men now that are also, you know, house husbands and who look after their children and would rather, you know, do that than go out and work.
I hear this a lot actually, and it's kind of like we're sort of trying to reason in a way that, you know, no, this is the modern day now that men are at home and they're doing, but we've got to realise that if we look at the perspective of the fact that, you know, irrespective to whatever, like if the man is you know, he's at home doing his thing and women are working out of the home, the roles are switched. Sometimes that is that a choice, or is it like it just happened that way because of circumstances or whatever, you know? So, you know, it's like rather than getting a carer, well, he can be at home. He hasn't got the job at the moment. He'll look after. It's not, maybe it's not an ideal situation, really. I mean, it's not in a sense. Although I'm not going to judge, you know, people arrange their own lives accordingly. But you know, the fact is, I don't actually see how there should be a difference between. You know.
So you think we should encourage ladies to join the army if they want to?
Maybe not encourage them, but not judge them or
well, why wouldn't we
what army?
encourage
Sorry,
them?
what army are we talking about here? I think we should encourage it and nobody to join.
But a lot of females do. They, you know, I have a friend who's joining the army, and she's very excited because she can do the training, whatever it's called, the boot camp, whatever it is, and hold an AK, whatever it is. I don't know about guns, and she feels very like, I'm here with the boys and I can do it, and I'm just as capable.
What I was going to say is, if they want to do it, then don't discourage them. Let each person do what they want to do and choose what they want to do. But like, maybe not have an initiative where we encourage women to join the army.
No.
That's what firefighters, you know, where I think you're meant to, my friend, she's just enrolled to be a firefighter, and I think you're meant to be able to take double the weight of your own body. And I just think that's a bit difficult if you're, you know, 5 foot something and it's a guy, but she feels like it's something that she wants to do, and I was, not to be horrible because I support anybody, but why would you want to? I mean, think of your back. I mean, it's a bit heavy.
I was watching once this show where they reward people for their like heroic acts and stuff, and there was this little tiny lady, and she was so petite, and she was a firefighter, and they said, how can you do like all the work of the men and things? And she said actually in her team they use her a lot when they're on call, because she's so small, she can go up like really easily and do things and stuff. So, you know, if you have the drive to do something, there will always be opportunities for you to do, you know, use your capabilities and things. Don't think just because, I'm small, I can't do this challenging job, or because I'm a woman I can't do it, that's for the men. You know, if you have the drive and the dedication, there's always going to be something where you can serve in.
It comes down to, I think, you know, it says that, you know, it is wajib for the men, if there are men around, to do the jihad when it comes to, you know, going to battles and stuff. That's why I think we think, women shouldn't be doing that. But it doesn't say anywhere that women cannot do it, you know. And like I said, coming back to Imam Zamana, when he does reappear, if we're there, you know, I want to fight for, you know, for him.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm just thinking.
But to say learn how to do that, again, that's a whole subject on its own, isn't it? Like, how do you fight? In a sense, I think.
Does it have to be physical?
Yeah.
Or can it be doing stuff in the community and holding it together?
I think men have they have the physique. We're females. We shouldn't try to be men. That shouldn't be the intention. But if you are an athlete and you want to, it's something you're passionate about, because of it's not about competing with men. It shouldn't ever be that way. I don't think.
All right. So that's what you mean by don't try and compete. But what if you have a side that, you know, you want to
That side of
you
it
want to
is-
do some wrestling. You want to, you know,
Well,
get
you
in
guys
there
can do
and
wrestling.
do
You know,
some
they're
rugby.
really good at it.
while the sisters are drinking tea. You want to be flinging a ball in
I
the
haven't
air.
said that there's not that many
That's
women I know who would like to.
No.
You don't know a lot of women that do.
I know they're active and they're more sporty than others, sportier than others, but not that many that would, want to
Want
play
to be
rugby
rolling in the
and
mire.
I know a lot
Because
of
it's
women-
stereotypes, isn't
Yeah.
it? Because we fit that. We're educated
Yeah.
from childhood. This is what men do. This is
Yeah.
what women do. So of course it's going to be
Yeah.
less. You know?
But I know a lot of women, and actually I've spoken to a lot of ladies my age, of our generation, and we all came to the conclusion that we would like to be called, we'd prefer being called strong than beautiful. Because
Definitely.
it's,
I would agree
it's
with that.
you've worked at
Strength is
something,
beauty.
You've made your
That's why I
yeah,
like that.
you've made
It's
your body
character.
strong, you've made your body healthy. But someone calling you beautiful, it's like,
Based
Can be
on
called
their
both
opinion
strong and beautiful.
yeah. But we were saying, what is
Yeah.
what is beautiful? We'd like, and then there was this hashtag going around everywhere now: strong is the new beautiful.
exactly like you
Oh,
see this image of
yeah.
what women should be
Yeah.
and what they should do. So back to self-defense classes. You said you had
Yeah.
some. Do you think we should be running that? Just looking at the climate that we are, there's, not a day goes by in the news where a sister's been attacked or her hijab's been pulled off or some kind of Islamophobic thing hurled her way. Do you think any masjids doing any self-defense classes? Do you know of any?
I know they hold I think it's back down to the intention, isn't it? They hold yoga classes for the females and they hold, exercises classes because they think that's what the women now
Yeah.
want. I think if
I
there
don't
was
do
more
Pilates,
interest,
unlock someone's
Yeah.
course.
there was more interest, I'm sure they would. And I don't see why not.
But I think it would be good. It's, something that will benefit us health-wise, but also we're living in crazy times. As you said, some of us go outside after
Yeah.
sunset for various reasons. But, we need to feel protected. So I think that needs to be encouraged as well. And I think we need to push girls to stop being so dainty. Go and do
Yes.
something, not only with your minds, but with your physical health as well. For yourself,
Yeah,
not
of
for
course.
anything else. So what about raising our children to be able to speak eloquently like Lady Zainab did? Is that something in the forefront of our minds? When we send our children to our beloved madrasas, what is our intention? For them to...
Do you know what I've noticed actually? The behaviour of girls these days is that we're talking, like you were mentioning, Ali, we discussed like the physical side, but then it's verbal. You hear a lot of bad language actually, and it's almost like it's a way that they're showing that they're equal to men as well, because they can use, but obviously regardless of whether you're a male or a female, we should have adab, adab. And that's what we should focus on. But I think that's where strength comes from, is being able to have the good adab and to adopt that kind of way of kind of communicating with others. And we're seeing less and less of that because of the social pressures with children. They come back and they're always, the girls especially in hijab, they're constantly swearing and all the time.
Being really loud when you don't really need to be loud to be...
And
It's
there's a
different
difference you see
hijab
that but
on
you
the
see
head.
them like that. Some of them at home they're totally different, but when they get out with their friends and with school, and they're totally different people there. Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe we should have, like during Muharram, we should have lectures on possible ways that Zainab was, comforting the other ladies, where she got her strength from when we're faced with difficult times. How do we do that? Because I can't see these I don't see them as being demure little, the men have gone, what are we going to do? I see them as being, okay, we've got a job to do, we're on a mission, let's roll us, not really roll your sleeves up, but figuratively roll our sleeves up. And I think we need to be giving these to the girls and to the boys as to how to become leaders in the community and outside the community. And that's what strengthens it. It doesn't necessarily, like I said, mean becoming a firefighter, which is great, but how are you going to be able to stand up for yourself if you go for a job interview and you might lose that job because you're wearing a hijab? People might not want to, they may not physically say it, but that I'm just as qualified, but I didn't get that job because of the way I look. What would you do in that situation? Rather than, the same, they were in the tent.
But really, we've just lost touch. We've really lost touch of how it is to, to be we're looking at role models, but we've actually forgotten what is actually the character. If you could, any of us actually discuss what are those characters that we're meant to be adopting for us to be successful, strong women. Surely they're not outdated. It's something that we need to
But when
follow.
is this discussed? Because I haven't been to one majlis where they discuss where it's dissected as to this is
the talk about Bibi Zainab's khutbah is very much talked about at majlises, you know, and how she spoke and what she said, and so I don't think it's.
But how does a 16-year-old tap into that when she's on the bus and you've got posters of X, Y, and Z? The media is telling you how to do that. How does the 16-year-old at that majlis tap into?
Do you know
how
what?
does
I
it
think
touch
a lot
her?
of the time we just reel off the khutbah, and it's not like we don't try and get in touch with the emotion that is what Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam said. Like, she stood up in the court and that it was full of men, and it was a situation that she was never exposed to before, so she's not comfortable in that situation, but spontaneously she reeled off one of the best khutbahs that was ever given. So you need eloquence, you need intelligence, you need poetry. There's so many things.
You need faith. You need to be articulate.
You need to be confident in yourself. There's so many things that we could just from that khutbah. But the thing is, we just read it, you know, as if it's a song. They sit there and they sing it off, and that's it. And you know, thank you for coming, goodbye. There's nothing that people take away.
And it's such you mentioned court, and it makes me think of, I've been in a situation where I've been in court and it was a big deal, and here I am, little old me. With my full hijab on, with someone who's probably 80 years old and can't hear me. He's thinking, oh, I'm a stereotypical Muslim woman. But you know, if I had known what gave her the strength, what characteristics did she have, other than, you know, reeling off whatever, that would have empowered me at that moment, or at a job interview, or, you know, at a situation that, you know, means a lot to you independently.
It comes down to confidence, doesn't it? If you're the reason behind. For example, if you're going into an interview and you've got your scarf on, and you know the reason behind you wearing your scarf isn't because everyone else is doing it, because you have the faith and you believe in doing it. So when somebody questions you or doubts it, you are there to be able to speak for.
But not a lot of 16, 17-year-olds have that volition.
But that is down to the family, to the madrasa teachers or the member to give that to them.
But go ahead.
Some things are not literally given. I think, in a sense, you can't. To youngsters, they have there's different things that will attract them, how they're going to absorb what was fed to them, and sometimes it will be like going through one ear and out the other, unless, like I said in the previous shows as well. I'll mention it again. As I believe art is a way, means forward, in the sense that. It is actually a way children learn to understand themselves, like to understand what their purpose is, because this is what it's all about, identity, and who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I? It's not just children who go through that. Us as adults, as parents, we're still struggling with that. So we project a lot of the times to our children what we want to be, but actually we're not being it ourselves. So how do we expect our children to be that? This is the key. It's about actually being it yourself. If you want it to be a good example, that's what it's all about. Examples. Ahlul Bayt are the perfect example. If we don't take from them, then what chance have we?
But this is true. When I'm saying we don't take from them, is we have the sermons, but we don't have who is the person, or the practical. Like, we see them as infallibles. So, but if you're an infallible, I presume that you're going to be able to carry yourself in every way. But yet you're a human being. I'm sure, you know, they cried and they had human emotions. But even to myself, sometimes I think these people are so up there. There's no way I'm ever going to get there. But could you give me some tools? Like with friends, could you tell me how this worked for you? So I will incorporate it in my life.
I feel that the Ahlul Bayt and Sayyidah Zainab and all the heroes of Karbala, they gave us these things. They gave us these tools. But it's us, or maybe the elder generation, that, okay, they did their best, but they did it in their way, and now it's up to us to go and try and, you know, try and get a bit more from the story than we have been, you know, since.
It's
and
not
also I
believe
that there is more stress upon what the male
the men, the
who did what they did in Karbala than it is. For example, you know how there's so much about, for example, Who is Hussein campaign. You know, there's so much about Imam Hussein and how courageous he was and how, you know, charitable he was, and I don't see that as much about the women of Karbala.
I think that's important, because I think for girls, and for brothers too, boys, you need to tell them, well, you know, put yourself in that shoes. If you were a woman and say you were only married for this certain amount of time, and to have that conviction to say, okay, I'm going with you. When I could go to my father's house quite happily, and you go on the battlefield and, you know, I'll tell your children that you were a great man. You know, but what led them to that? What gave them that? Of course, Allah gave them the inspiration, but what did it take for them? And a lot of the time as women, we do make the most sacrifices. We don't verbally say it, and we don't want a round of applause. But what did it take? What must it have felt like for a woman? We think about migrants to do that walk. You know, everybody's staring at you. You don't know who's coming back with you. What about your future? We talked in the previous show about, you know, what is your marriage life going to be like? But the idea that you could lose everything, we don't really. And I think those kind of talks are empowering for young girls.
I think it's because they were so much more in touch with their spirituality. Maybe as women, they maybe didn't have a conflict of where the responsibility lie or what their role was. Like, I can't remember one lady, her name, but during the Battle of Ashura, she said to her husband, if you go and fight and you have the pleasure of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, why would you leave me? I want that same reward as you're going to get. So you know, they knew what their goal was, and whatever happened, they would get to that destination. But I think it takes a lot of spirituality and like a lifetime leading up to that. It's not just something that you do on the spur of the moment. It's not
only spirituality. I think it's having people around you. I think with sisters, a lot of the time, if you have 2 or 3 sisters who have the common interest, it drives you. So somebody will say, like on this program, like you'll say something, the Sharp might back you up, or I'll say something and Sarah will hopefully back me up. But you know, you get that energy, and it's important that we remind ourselves of sacrifices that sisters did as well. You know, they didn't know, and in that time where you didn't have, you know, a social security state that was going to pay you this, that and the other. I think these things are important.
Females stood up in court, so we know that Fatima Zahra.
Exactly.
You know, they stood up against it. Was like there are examples. They were very active in society as such, more so than we even would give credit to. And I think yes, it's not spoken too much as much as it should be. But at the same time,
and again, it's more non-physical. You know, it's more about what they did and how they did it, and none of it was maybe because of the hijab factor, I don't know, it was not as physical as the warriors of the Battle of
maybe culturally at that time it, you know, it just wasn't the set thing to do.
What happened to modern day, it's not related to Islam. I mean, we know that women, the role, there was a lot about nursing and about you know, kind of giving that's the other kinds of support that's needed, like the emotional as well.
I just thought of something, you know, the Kurdish rebel fighters in Iraq, they have a lot of women in there who fight on the front lines, and it's encouraged. How would we view that?
Because there was a fatwa given, wasn't it, by one of the guys that you go and fight against the ISIS and and it wasn't just for men, was it, that fatwa?
I don't know of it, but it's probably for anybody there. But I think these things, as we said, these things I want to hear about. Not that I want to, because it's helpful to kind of imagine the person as flesh and blood, and you know, what could you gain from that? Not the fact that, you know, they were just amazing people, which they were, and they just, you know, I can't really get up to their level. And I think
but you do your best, don't you?
You do, but when you're talking to young people, they think about the here and now, and their attention kind of goes. You need to reel them back in to say, they had their own tests, but this is what they may have got from each other. There was a community feel, good versus evil, and we need to break it down. I think. What were you going to say, Sarah?
I don't know. I'm just thinking actually about the fact that we really need to address, we really need to look at equality. What does that actually mean? Is there such a thing? The fact that we are different, but that we're at the same time, we have like in the eyes of Allah, souls, we're tested the same. You know, we are equal in that sense. Of our actions will be measured according to you know,
As
accordingly.
humans,
So really, we need to understand the concept of what that actually means. And I think a lot of the time we were interpreting that in a sort of secular manner of like, you know, what you mentioned, like, oh, women can go out to war and they can do these things are happening. Fatwas are being made. Okay, we're looking at circumstances. It's not about liberation. It's not about kind of a form of liberation. It's more about the circumstances, that there is desperation, and so everyone will go and fight because it's actually something right now that it's a matter of life and death. It's not an ideal situation. I think in the reality was women did actually kind of, they were nurses, the women, or they were like just looking after the family, looking
Or
after
the
children.
ones who gave them moral support to,
Well,
could you just, you know, I support you in what you do, and you know.
They were
Even,
there.
on one of the battles of Imam Ali alayhi salam, it was shortly after his wedding to Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, and Sayyidah Fatima Zahra was on the battlefield and she was nursing Imam Ali, and this is like directly after the wedding, so instead of having the blissful time that we now expect
But even
from
during the
after our
Prophet
wedding.
as well, that is why Prophet called Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam Abiha, because she looked after him as if she was his mother. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, there's different sides, like Sayyidah Fatima nursed Imam Ali, she took care of him, but when it was time for her to stand up for her right, she went into the
masjid and she gave that khutbah.
So it's not like you're a wilting flower and you can only do the nursing and you can only do these little. You can when something is needed from you, you can you know speak for yourself and stand up for yourself.
Well, mashallah, what Sarah Russell just said did move me about the souls thing, and if only there were some khutbahs that mentioned the same thing, then I would probably gain something from it, subhanallah, because you don't think of it like that, but when the way she put it, it's like, okay, our souls are
rather put you in the masjid member.
To be so important. I think it's important for us to all. It gets a bit repetitive, that's all I just want to say. I want to try and
I think they do that because they want to keep the message alive as well, you know.
But
They want to
the message.
it is the message. I'm not saying that it's not, but I think the history as well as the practical stuff.
But we can have that together.
Yeah, definitely.
There was one khutbah that I heard that said, you know, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam was going from his Hajj and he was moving to Karbala, and he said Du'a Arafah, like, we have it written down, we forget that Imam Hussein just said it, and he imagine his heart was full of emotion and he knew what was going to happen, and you know, so he stood there and it was his emotion that was, you know, he used his eloquence, and but so that makes him more human. When we say we need to be in touch, like, it was his, you know, not upset, but his frustration maybe at the people, and you know, preparing the people for what's going to happen. So all these things, if we think that, you know what, it's not just a dua that we need to blah blah blah, like get it over and done with, there's actually words of emotion from the grandson.
You're
of
right,
the
you know,
Prophet.
Sarah, you say how, you know, the war, the battlefield and the fighting there was just a small part of the whole Karbala. You know how Imam Hussein dealt with Hur, and how he dealt with the people that were there to support him, and that was the major part of it.
And there's so much I didn't realise. Recently I read the Battle of Ashura, like, in detail. I didn't realise that they leave out so much when they give us the sermons.
Yes,
like,
they do.
Imam
to make
Hussein,
it
but obviously they've got a limited time, but like things like Imam Hussein went out on, like, at the time, if you rode on a camel, it means you're not coming to fight, it means you're just coming to give a lecture. And he did things like tactics at the time that tried to keep the peace and tried to end the battle and keep the women safe and things, but we don't realize these things. I was so shocked.
And fighting on the battle wasn't given the daraja of Jihad Akbar. It was what Imam Sajjad did after that was given the daraja of Jihad Akbar.
Lots there. I hope you, the audience, has benefited from it. Do keep us in your du'as during Muharram, and do stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.